Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be testing out the 9mm AR versus the 22 AR, okay? And we're going to be shooting these at 100 yards. Now both of these rifles have a 20-yard zero. The reason why I'm using a 20-yard zero is because from what I recall in the past, I get my second zero at 100 yards, okay? So let's shoot these now. The good thing is that I pretty much have the same ammunition in both of these. So this is CCI Blazer 9mm, and over here I've got CCI Blazer 22 long rifle. Okay, so this should be an interesting test. The same brand, just different calibers. So let's start with the 22. Now the wind is blowing a little bit left to right, so I'm going to hold. Actually, it was blowing right to left, so I'm holding a little bit to the left. So one of the things I try to do is once I get on target, I try to take my shots as quickly as possible because of the wind. So I want to get my 5 shots off before the wind has a chance to change what it's doing. So yeah, that's one of the things I have found when shooting in the wind. Once you figure out what your hold needs to be, or if you're trying to get a consistent hold, just get them out as fast as possible before the wind starts doing different things. With the 9mm, I can actually see the holes in the scope. Both of these are 8x magnification. With the 22, I couldn't quite see. I kind of see the holes a little bit. It looked like the 22's dropped just a little bit lower. Let me go get the targets up here, and we'll look at it. All right, so I've got the targets. Again, both of these have a 20-yard zero. Now the 22 has got a cmmg 22 conversion bolt, which is nice because it allows me to use, good optics, right? Because I'm not going to put a $1,500 scope on like a Ruger 1022. As far as accuracy, I have found that the cmmg 22 conversion bolt and like a Ruger 1022, they both get about the same accuracy. I mean, there's a little bit of a luck of the draw. Like sometimes the conversion bolt would be a little bit more accurate. Sometimes the Ruger 1022 will be a little bit more accurate. Even using the same ammunition, it kind of goes back and forth. Let's see what we did with the 22. Now there's a little bit of wind today, so that's going to favor the heavier bullet. So with the 22, we got 4 shots on paper, and one looks like it got blown off. So the 3 shots are about 3 inches, and then with the 4th shot way up there, we're like at 5.5 inches. So that was holding over here, so we can see that on average, we're dropping about 3 inches with the 22. So we're about 3 inches low using that 20-yard zero. Now, here's the thing. I've shot this a lot of times. It seems to like, because if you notice, like I got one up there. I shot this earlier today. Here, let me show you this. Hold on. So I shot this just a little while ago using that same 22 ammunition. So holding like right here, I'm clustering like right here, you know, and then earlier I shot it there and like I'm clustering like I got one just above it. So it's a little bit of a luck of the draw, because pistol ammunition in general, I find tends to deviate a lot. The reason is because these cartridges hold so little gunpowder, right? That, see, here's the thing, the margin of error is the same whether they're loading pistol rounds or if they're loading, you know, full-size rifle rounds. So if it's a 5.56 or 308, when the machines are dropping the gunpowder, the margin of error is the same. Let's say they're going to be off 3 grains or 5 grains or whatever. Well, when they're loading a 22, that's the same. If the machine's off by 3 grains or 5 grains or whatever it is, they're off by the same number of grains. And percentage-wise, that's a much bigger difference in a pistol round versus a rifle round. Okay, so that's the problem with the pistol rounds and why they tend to be less accurate than rifle rounds. It's because there's always this margin of error. It's just that margin of error is going to impact the pistol round a lot more, just because it ends up being a greater percentage. Okay? So let's look at the 9mm here. So same thing, 20 yards zero, 100 yards. So here we got 4 shots on the paper. One went high up here, so the total cluster is about 6 1/4 inches. Okay, 6 1/4 inches. The center being there, it looks like we're about 3.5 inches high. Okay, so with the 22, again using that 20-yard zero, it seems like we're about 3 inches low. Okay, whereas with the 9mm using the 20-yard zero, we're about 3 inches high. Okay, using that same 20-yard zero. Let's shoot this again. Now, in a prior video, I had done this using a 22 pistol, and I was shooting at 100 yards, and I think I had something like 4 out of 10 hits. I think sometimes I'll get like 6 out of 10. When you're shooting pistols, right, like if you're shooting, let's say like a Ruger Mark IV or Mark III, that has a fixed barrel, and the sights or the red dot are connected directly to the barrel. Versus if you're shooting, let's say like a tilt barrel pistol, right, the sights, right, the sights are on the slide, they're not on the barrel. Okay, and then what's happening is every time that barrel comes back, it's never exactly in the same spot. It could be like a tiny whatever fraction of a millimeter off. So that's why your 22 pistol is usually going to always beat any larger caliber, right, in pistol, right, because it has a tilt barrel. Okay, but when we get to rifles, right, now we're talking fixed barrel versus fixed barrel. What I'm finding is that the 9mm, where are you? The 9mm tends to be a little bit more consistent because of the wind. Okay, and today there is a little bit of a wind. So like I said, here we got one shot that was completely blown off. But let's take a look at the best 4 shots. So let's say these are 4 out of 5 shots. We got 5.5 inches. So let's look at the best 4 out of 5 here. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples. So best 4 out of 5. Let's see, that's 5 inches. 5 inches. So we got 5 inches, 4 out of 5, versus 5.5 inches. So in this example, the 9mm beat the 22 by 1/2 inch. Let's shoot this again. Let's do one more. Let's do this one more time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the holes. I'm going to mark these holes. Okay, so we got these holes marked. Now, incidentally, I did shoot earlier. I did shoot this. Not this. When I shot the 9mm, I got a cluster. It was 4 out of 5. Where's that? I had a cluster over here with that 9mm rifle, that Palmetto PX9, of 2 inches with 4 out of 5. So, you know, I mean, you're just gonna. I mean, that's the thing with pistol rounds, with these small calibers. Like sometimes you can get really nice groups, and then sometimes they'll just open up. And I know that my shooting is consistent. I mean, the wind can affect the small calibers, but I think the biggest factor is, you know, a tiny, you know, is basically is the gunpowder, because when the machine is dropping the gunpowder, you know, I mean, the machine is not 100% consistent, right? It's always off by a couple of grains from one round to the next, right? Because it's not match grade ammunition. It's not being like measured with a trickler, right? Where they're like measuring every load as it goes into the case. They're not doing this with bulk, you know, with factory ammunition. So that's going to be the biggest factor of why you sometimes end up with like a 2-inch group, and then sometimes you're gonna get like a 5-inch group. Okay? But for the most part, on average, I have found that the 22s and the 9mm at 100 yards out of rifles, they get about the same. Okay, let's do this one more time. Let's see what we get. All right, let's do this one more time. So this time with the 22s, I'm going to hold a little bit more to the right. Go get those targets and see what we look like. All right, so I got the targets back. So we've got some consistency here. So with the 22s, using the 20-yard zero, right, we're gonna be about 3 inches low at 100 yards. Okay, so your second zero is going to be at about 75 yards. So first zero 20 yards, second zero 75 yards. I know from, because I've tested this in the past. At 100 yards, you're going to be about 3 inches low with the 22, with the CCI brand anyway. And then with the 9mm, we're seeing that we are consistently about 3 inches high, right, using that same 20-yard zero. Okay, So that 20-yard zero is really good because, you know, regardless whether you're using 22s, 9mm at 100 yards, you'll either be 3 inches high or 3 inches low. And the 9mm is particularly good because with this being 3 inches high, because that's kind of ideal. Because even with 5.56, I mean, at 100 yards, I want to be about 3 inches high. So that gives me that second zero at 200 yards. I would say that the second zero here, I'm just guessing, will probably be somewhere around 130 yards. I have to test that out in a different video, because now we know exactly where that's what we have on this AR. So we're 3 inches high. So the second group that I got with the 9mm. Okay, so the circles are before. So before the circles are 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the new holes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I was holding a little bit to the left because of wind. Apparently the wind died down when I was shooting this, or was blown to the, because I was holding about here and it looks like it impacted about that area. And the total group is about 5.5 inches. So that's exactly what we had earlier. 5.5 inches, right? If we go back to the circle ones, yeah, circle ones was, actually looks, it was yeah, about 5.5, 6 inches. So we're being pretty consistent, right? With these new holes, we got 1, there's 2 there, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5.5 inches. So that's what you can kind of expect. Occasionally, yeah, you'll get 2-inch groups. Like I have gotten 2-inch groups with this ammunition in this 9mm AR, but that's kind of like a fluke. I mean, just the 9mm is just not that consistent. 5.5, 6 inches more along the lines of what you can expect. With the 22, so yeah, here we are about 3 inches low. So and our wind's having a bigger impact here, because here I actually drew a second bullseye here, and I was holding there, and it looks like 3 of them dropped right underneath it. And I think the wind might have picked up a little bit more and blew them a little further. So the total group here is 7 inches. That one looks like it really got blown out. If we look at the best 4 out of 5, we got 5 inches. And that's pretty typical what I'll see with both 22s and 9mm. On average, I'll see about 5-inch groups, sometimes 4-inch groups. Occasionally, they might get better than that. But that's about what you can expect, about 5 inches. I'm not even going to count that one that's way out there, because I think that the wind just dragged that out. 5 inches with the 22. I've shot this with a Ruger 10/22. I get about the same. So which is really cool, because, this a Ruger 10/22 is like specifically designed to shoot 22 long rifle, whereas this gun here is designed to shoot 5.56, and I'm putting in a 22 conversion bolt, and most of the time it gets about the same accuracy as a dedicated 22 gun. I've done videos where I'm shooting this out to 200 yards. What I did with this is, because this has a 50-yard zero with 5.56. So what I've done is I've dialed up about 2.6 mils on this in order to get that 20-yard zero. Okay, so that's something that I want to make a note of. To get to that 20-yard zero, it's 2.6 mils dial up. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dial back to my zero, so I don't forget, because otherwise, the next time I go to shoot this, if I don't dial back, I'm going to be like way high with 5.56. So that's one of the nice things about having a turret that, this is a, you can reset the zero on this, right? So, once you zero it in, you can reset this. So if I'm shooting, anytime I'm shooting 22s, I can just dial it up 2.6, or a lot of times I'll just dial up 3, because usually I'm shooting like 200 yards or something. So I'll usually just dial up 3, and I've got a table where I know what my holdovers are on the mills, because this has a mill. Actually, no, this is the Raptor. So using the, I know what my holds are on this Raptor reticle. So, yeah, so I think that was interesting. 22s and the 9mm, you can expect about 5 inches at 100 yards. Occasionally you'll get lucky, you'll get tighter groups. I've shot this plenty of times, so that's usually what I get. I mean, you guys seen me shoot 5.56 with half-inch groups. So I mean, the wind is probably, there's a little bit of wind today, but I think the main factor is the inconsistency in the of the gunpowder in the pistol calibers. Now, that inconsistency is the same in the rifle rounds versus the 22s. It's just that because the rifle rounds, they hold more of it, it ends up being a smaller percentage, right? Those 3 or 4 grains that it's off. Whereas in the pistol rounds, those same 3 or 4 grains being off ends up being a bigger percentage. Okay? But the more interesting thing, I think, is that with the 9mm, using that 20-yard zero, we're going to be 3 inches high at 100 yards. And with the 22, using that 20-yard zero, we're going to be 3 inches low. Okay, so drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to y'all soon.